the IPCC report was released, and as you know, it was sobering reading, just like all the previous IPCC reports. It was a call to arms, and it only confirmed what Obama said, that we are the first generation to live through the consequences of climate change, and we will be the last generation that has something to do, that will have a chance to do something about it. It also sounded a note of hope, and that sound was the sound of a gun that was fired last year through the passage of our historic Climate Change Act. That gun sounded the note of climate action, a clarion call to the rest of the world, sending a signal to markets, giving businesses and industry the certainty, the policy certainty they needed in order to invest in Australia and to invest in her ambition and her future. It laid out across the sky that Australia was open for business. But we know also that since the passage of that act, that storm clouds have been gathering. And those storm clouds have been getting closer and closer, and they threaten to rain on our parade. And I speak, Deputy Speaker, of the Biden administration's passage of the Inflation Reduction Act, which in combination with the CHIPS Act and the infrastructure bill pours 3.2 trillion Australian dollars equivalent on the green shoots of green industrialisation in the US. In its scope and magnitude, it is simply overwhelming. Now, I congratulate the United States for acting on climate change in this way. As you know, Congress for decades has been gridlocked on this matter, but through the passage of these acts, the US is moving. But there are always winners and losers. Now, the effect has been surgical in some parts of the world, particularly in Europe. We have seen capital and businesses move across to the US. The car industry has gone, in some cases, followed by battery manufacturers. But what has also happened is that we've seen the movement of fledgling green hydrogen industries also move to the US, based on some fairly generous tax incentives and subsidies that this conglomeration of acts provides. Now, there's no question that this historic act or series of acts has exerted a gravitational pull. The US is drawing in capital and drawing in talent. So what does it mean for Australia? The first thing is that we understand on this side of the House that our green hydrogen industry is exposed. But we're also doing something about it, and that's the key. The Energy and Climate Ministers met on the 24th of February and identified that this was a threat to our industry and committed to refresh our green hydrogen agenda. And it can't happen too soon. Why? Because 4 days later, a multi-million green hydrogen project in the Hunter was put on ice. So we know that the IRA is there, an ever-present force in Australia, but it is actually not our enemy. The enemy was complacency. Australia for too long has been a nation that has rested on its laurels. We have been the world's quarry without considering the value add. Now, that is something the Albanese government is addressing. It's addressing through its National Reconstruction Fund, which is pivoting this country to a manufacturing nation, modernising it, going from a commodity-driven nation to a more complex economy that is diversified. And green hydrogen, along with all our renewable energy, will be a core enabler of that mission. But that's not all. Complacency was driven from this House through our work on housing, on skills, visa reform, as well as health. All of these things underpin a healthy environment economy. In terms of our actual work in green hydrogen, we're sending rivers of money down. Over $500 million to support green hydrogen hubs in Gladstone, the Hunter and the Pilbara. And this is also in concert with $20 billion that we're investing in transmission, because green hydrogen cannot happen without renewable energy, captured from the sun and our wind, actually massive natural endowments that are then sent to the manufacturing hubs that we're going to be installing. So I would close, Deputy Speaker, by saying that the IRA and similar schemes incorporating these incentives are threats to our domestic industries, but it is also highly motivating on this side of the House. It's motivating because it has forced us to lean harder towards this green boom. Thank you.
I thank the member for Higgins, and I call the member for Hughes.